All right, this video is going to walk you through how to rotate points and objects around the origin, either rotating by 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or 270 degrees. Now, the first thing we need to first of all talk about is the quadrants. There are 4 quadrants in a coordinate system. There's quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Of the 4 quadrants, you can remember the order number just by simply how you write the letter C. When you draw the letter C, you draw it in this fashion like this. And the way you make the letter C is the same order of the quadrants. So just remember, the letter C helps you know the quadrant numbers as you draw the letter C. All right, so now as we go back to the notes now, as we take this coordinate now, 2, 4, if you're ever asked to rotate it counterclockwise, that's what I've abbreviated with this CCW. Counterclockwise is going backwards around a clock. So if I look at a clock like this, you'll notice that the numbers go around this direction as they count larger and larger. This direction is clockwise. Counterclockwise is going against the order of the numbers, and you're going backwards. That's counterclockwise. As you'll notice, the second hand, that little second hand that you see on the watch there, is going clockwise this direction, which means that's the direction, the way the clock works, which is this direction. So if I say 90 degrees counterclockwise, that's going backwards how the clock works, this direction. And if I only go 90 degrees, that's 1 quadrant over. If I were to go 180 degrees counterclockwise, you'd be going 2 quadrants over. And if eventually I do 270 degrees, you're going 3 quadrants around backwards, counterclockwise. And again, you can go forwards clockwise or backwards counterclockwise, and you'll either end up in this quadrant, or this quadrant. But whatever method that you use, either going 270 or 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, you're always going to end up 1 quadrant away from where you start. And the way you can figure out the new coordinate of where you end up, whether you go 270 clockwise this way or 90 this way, you're just going to do this phrase right here, swap and match. You're going to swap the order of those 2 numbers and then match the quadrant signs. As I've drawn in here, you'll notice that the first quadrant right here is going to go +2, +4. So positive, as it's mentioned right here. If I were to go this side, so any number in this quadrant 2 is going to have numbers that go backwards something and then up something positive. Backwards negative, up something positive. So when I want to match the location of this dot, if it ends up in this quadrant, you're going to have some number that's negative and then some number that's positive. If you end up down here in the bottom left quadrant, which is quadrant 3, both numbers are going to both be negative. Okay, negative, negative. And then lastly, the ones that are in the 4th quadrant, you go to the right something positive and down something negative to end up down here. So every number down in this quadrant is going to have the format of positive, negative. So when I say match the quadrant signs, if it ends up down here, the number better be positive first and then a negative second. Okay, so here's how it looks. If I want to do a counterclockwise 90 degrees, which will put you over in this quadrant right here, you're going to swap the x and y around. So instead of 2, 4, we're going to say 4, 2. So I'll just say 4, 2. Now the next thing is it needs to go negative, positive. So then I'm going to have a -4 and a +2. So if I say, well, where is that actual dot when I graph it? At 4, -4, 2, I go 4 left, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 2. That's where this dot will end up if you rotate counterclockwise to the left. If I want to go 90 degrees clockwise instead, and I end up 1 quadrant away from where I start, well, then it's the same thing. I'm going to swap the x and y and match the signs. So I'm going to take my 4 and 2, or 2 and 4, and switch them around. So that then I would say, instead of if the 4 is second, I'm going to write it first now, and then 2 second. But then I want to match these signs. It needs to go +4, and then a negative number next. So the answer will be 4, -2. So if I do count 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right and down 2, that dot, if rotated 90 degrees clockwise, will end up there. Now realize this, if I were to start the dot here at 5, 1 and rotate it counterclockwise 270, you end up down here still 1 quadrant away from where you started. So again, you'll end up down here, and I'll reverse those numbers to 1 and then 5, but then again, it's supposed to be a +1 and a -5, like this, and that's where this dot will end up when rotated 270 counterclockwise, which then if I graph that coordinate, I'm going to go 1 to the right and then down 5. Well, that puts you right there. So that coordinate ends up right there when you rotate it 270 degrees counterclockwise. So whether you go 90 or 270, you're going to end up 1 quadrant away from where you start, and all you're going to do is swap the order of the x and y around, but just make sure the 2 numbers that you end up writing down match the signs of the quadrant that you're in. All right. Now the next one is 180 degrees. We haven't said what you do if you only go 180 degrees. So if I start my quadrant or my coordinate here at 2, 4, the same spot right here, 2, 4. What the directions are for 2, 4 when it's 180 degrees is just to change the signs only. Don't swap the x and y around. So the order, if I have 2, 4 here, I know it's going to go 2, 4 here also, 2, 4. Which then, if that's the case, it also means that in this quadrant, it's supposed to be in the bottom left quadrant, quadrant 3, it's supposed to go negative, negative. So you're going backwards 2 and down 4. That puts you at this location right there. Sorry, it's right on the actual coordinate label. But if I go 2 to the left and down 4, it means this is negative and this is negative at 2, -4. All right, let's just see if we can put this all together now, because as you've just seen now, what it looks like when you go 180 degrees around, you change the signs. 2 and 4 became -2, -4. Let's try it with this question right here now with the coordinate at 3, -2. All right, so if I go 3 to the right, 2 down, that's where this one starts from. If I go 90 degrees this way, okay, let's talk about that real quick. You're gonna swap and match. So I'm gonna swap the order here. And so instead of 3 first, I'm gonna have 2 go first and 3 go second. So it'll be at 2, 3. Now again, don't forget it's supposed to go plus, plus when you're in quadrant 1. So therefore, they're both supposed to be positive. So 2, 3 puts the dot right there. If I rotate this dot 90 degrees where it ends up 1 quadrant away from where I start, you swap the numbers around and then match the quadrant signs. You're going +2 to the right, up 3, positive, positive. Hopefully you see that. If I want to go backwards 1 spot, 90 degrees this way, that means I'm going to go, backwards 90 degrees this way. Again, that's another swap and match. So I'm going to swap those numbers around. So it's 2 first, then a 3. But don't forget this one. They're supposed to both be negative because you're going backwards 2 and down 3. Makes that -2, -3. And that looks like this. So I'm going to go backwards 2, down 3. That's where that dot ends up. If you rotate clockwise 90 degrees. Lastly, if you go 180 degrees, 180 degrees is going to be keep the sign, or keep the order that you have, but just change the signs. So that means you're going to keep the 3 and the 2, 3 and the 2. But since it was +3, we're going to make that -3. Since that was -2, we're going to make that +2. So if I'm supposed to do this one correctly here, I'm going to go 3 to the left, up 2. And that's it. And that's where this dot ends up locating after doing 180 degrees rotation. So what you have to remember today, as you try to make your new locations of your coordinates, is that if you're going to do a 90-degree rotation or a 270 rotation, figure out where it's going to end up, whether you're going clockwise or counterclockwise. You're going to swap the order around and then match the signs of the quadrants that you end up in, okay? And again, if it's just a rotation of 180 degrees, then all you're going to do is just keep the order the way you have it, but just change the signs either from positive to negative, or like you had in this case right here where one was positive, one was negative, they then become negative, or positive to negative here, and then negative to positive there. They just change the signs only, and that's the new location. You then get that dot to show up. Hope this video helps, and good luck with your rotations of these different degrees.